Good evening. Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 here in Sarasota, Florida. And on the 13 moon galactic calendar, it is magnetic 19, the 19th day of the first month, which is the magnetic moon of purpose. This video is going to be I'm likely going to stumble through this. So I reunited after, oh gosh, couple few years with a young man from my farm community is how I originally met him. He is a local Sarasota guy, an absolutely fantastic musician. He is somebody that I remember so distinctly a conversation across from him in the fields one day when we were planting and him, I just sharing the knowingness within that he was going to be a professional musician, despite all the things that people say, all the naysayers, all the negative energy that's directed towards really any artist who seems to be under to others, this false belief that they can actually support themselves doing what they love. Now, in this gentleman's case, he is very, very talented. But being talented and being able to make it and support yourself are two distinctly different things. We see in our world plenty of people who have success that their talent is questionable, and there are plenty, I would argue, way more people out there with tremendous talent that for numerous reasons don't ever see that talent come to fruition in any way, let alone in a place like at a level where they're able to actually make ends meet in their life and support themselves doing whatever said talent is. Long story short, I ended up spending 6 hours with him, and it was unbelievable. The creative, it was like jamming, like what I imagine jamming with the band would be if I still played a musical instrument. And obviously he is a musician and plays in multiple bands, so he's very familiar with that sort of exchange. When you're in musically, it's just when you jam with the band, especially if you're just all meeting for the first time and you're just playing, you riff off of one another. Yesterday we were riffing off of one another with the reason we were meeting was having to do with taxes, but we ended up riffing off of one another, sharing our updates of our our independent lives and our visions, and both of us really having similar ways that our minds working to find as many win-wins for as many people. Both of us enjoy numbers, both of us enjoy business, but both of us are absolutely dominated by creative energies. So I find myself a little strangely a bit discombobulated today after that exchange with him. I'm feeling, as I do all the time when I turn the camera on, a whole number of things could be shared. And I have to remind myself that I know this series and this little exercise to try to do 30 videos in 30 days is really for me to just get back on the horse in my world of work and to get back active every single day in some aspect of my work, especially as I prepare to work 15 out of 17 weekends in the fall for my race work. I need to ensure that my work stays alive and that my focus is equitable. It might not be time-wise equitable, but I have a lot of my stuff has been on pause for a lot of years for a lot of reasons. And meeting with this friend last night reignited so many things. And I would say the most salient thing about the exchange was a reminder to what extent we mirror. I say often that this lifetime, this realm down on this planet is all about reflections and projections. We literally are living in a holographic universe. I know there's a book with that title out there. It's one that I've wanted to read. I first learned about it, I think, when I lived in Seattle in 2011. It's the first time I heard about that book, The Holographic Universe. It's not one that I've read, but I believe that concept is accurate. I think it's, again, a truth with the capital T, that everything down here is illusion. Because when it comes down to it, consciousness is the source of everything, and consciousness is not physical. Okay, so reality is sort of birthed from the non-physical and becomes physical through these, in this case, these physical vessels. But consciousness is not physical. So when we come down here on the holograph that is the earth, it's about projections and reflections of energy. So we project out and then we reflect back what people project to us. We either reflect it back, or we don't reflect it back, or we project out something over their projection. But it's all reflections and projections. And what that dynamic is with another person, at least in my experience, especially in the past 12 years post spiritual awakening and post going after my dream life, which is to say, existing with an understanding of this at a different level and working to then break free from the illusion that this reality, and hence all of the arbitrary rules and man-made laws of this reality, are set in stone. They're not. And as I've worked to project my own dream life out there, part of that has been experiencing people from my past, most of them incapable of reflecting back to me my new projection, and trying to attract new things, new opportunities, new people, new relationships that are able and willing to reflect back to me what I'm working to project outwards. And I don't know if that's clear, but with this friend, this young man, the reflection projection was one that I don't know that I've experienced it quite like this particular. And of course, every relationship is unique, but this combination with somebody that's a fellow artist, a fellow entrepreneur, a fellow numbers lover, a fellow big visionary, working to overlay many, many different things. In his house, he has the type of markers that you can write on the windows. So I have papers plastered in my main workroom, but with ideas and boxes of ideas over the years and papers, because putting it into writing and bringing it and giving it voice, that's essential to it becoming physical. But I've not, and I have a lot of positive, wonderful reflection, projection relationships with people, but not quite like this. And I found it absolutely invigorating, inspiring, just all sorts of adjectives. But what it does is it also makes more salient the relationships that are still in my life where, let's just say, there's an unwillingness or an incompatibility or incapable of, or not choosing to, an unwillingness to agree to see me in the way I see myself. And this is really, really important for me, again, because again, I'm at the precipice. I'm either going to break through and finally begin to put myself and stand tall in what I believe my capabilities to be and what I feel I'm capable to do out in the world that I'm currently not doing for money. I gotta step through and just trust that as I really stand in those skill sets and those gifts, that I will draw in those that are able to reflect it back to me, those that are willing to see me in the light. And I'm speaking most specifically now as a speaker and an author. I have other skill sets, right? As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as somebody capable of managing in my big project, Ripple 2020, that project has as its goal to raise $4 million, where I'm simply going to be a conduit of that money, not earning any money through that particular project, but being a conduit of it. And I will share more about that project before these 30 videos are up. But obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, that project came up with this friend last night, as did my speaking and my writing. And he remembers, he's watched some of my recent videos and he's like, he goes, first of all, I've got to get more succinct. Second of all, he said, sometimes you get into the power and the oomph and the excitement, but other times you don't. And I know that's because I never know who's listening. So I have a capability to customize what comes through me depending on who the audience is. And this is so challenging to do because, as I shared just a couple of videos ago, I really have no idea who's watching. I have a small idea. I know of maybe 5 people specifically that I know are tuning into a lot of these videos. But other than that, I don't. And I don't know specifically what people are drawn to or interested in or willing to hear more of. And it makes it really tough when you have the ability to speak to as many things that I have the ability to speak about. And I need to start, I need to keep working. I have a lot of work and a lot of growth to do in the speaking capacity. And I need to start playing imagination and imagining the audience on the other side, and perhaps doing different series that isolate different aspects of myself that are able to customize. For example, talking to a group of athletes, I'm going to talk differently than if I was talking to all the people I worked at Microsoft with, than if I talked to the people that I worked at the farm with, than if I was talking to the teachers who I taught with, as opposed to talking to the people I worked in the Ironman world with and my event world. Every one of them, I would customize how I would talk. And then there's the added layer that we train people how to treat us and how to see us. We really are cast in one another's movies. And it's a matter of finding others who can agree to see you as you see yourself, especially when you start to see yourself in the brightest, best light, which is not something that I'd spent a good chunk of my young adulthood doing. I wasn't able, I didn't have the self-love and the self-acceptance. And like tends to attract like. So, following that rationale, by extension, that means that I was also drawing into my existence a lot of other people who struggled with self-love, and therefore what we were mirroring back and reflecting and projecting to one another was not necessarily the best versions of ourselves. And then it's really hard to grow into a new expanded version of yourself with people who only knew you in a certain way. There's got to be room for that mutual growth. And my experience has been, as sad as this may be, not a lot of people grow at the same rate. So I have found that's why the filtering of people in my life has happened. That's why my inner circle is now so small. And I don't know. I know this is likely not going to all make that much sense. It's not going to come across as too much with too much oomph or too many golden nuggets, but reflections and projections, having room to grow. And that's why when you find the friends that are able to hold space for the best version of you, but don't turn away when you're not in the best version. I actually find people say that true friends stick with you when you're low and you're going through the hard times. My experience has been that the truer friend is able to hold the space for you in both but most especially when you're shining your brightest. And that has been what I've really struggled with since my spiritual awakening. The vast majority of people couldn't seem to agree to see my story the way I'm trying to share my story. But this young man last night has absolutely no problem agreeing to see me, how I see my future, what I want my future to be comprised more of. And don't get me wrong, I definitely have handful of people in my life, maybe even into two handfuls of people in my world right now who are familiar with more the complete Alyson and who are able to celebrate when I'm shining bright and be there when I slip. But my experience by far has more been that I found people that are more able to be with the weaker Alyson than with the Alyson that's empowered and self-loving and confident. I don't have a huge support network that sees that version and accepts that version. And so it makes it interesting because the conversations I have, what comes out, it's just amazing to me what comes through me when the audience is really a ready and willing audience to I don't know. And this gets into some of the wounds of my family and my childhood, for sure, big time, like huge wounds of, and I would argue it always roots from how somebody feels about themselves. It's not really ever about you. How somebody looks and receives you is a lot more about them. And for those of us who have more of a history of self-loathing and struggling with self-love and self-acceptance and seeing and being the best versions of ourselves for ourselves first, it makes sense that this would be a particularly tough obstacle. And it makes sense why it's been an obstacle in my path that I keep running up against, and I haven't yet cleared this hurdle. And I'm determined to clear it this time. So that's the video for tonight. Probably going to be titled Projections and Reflections. So thank you again to my young friend. I cannot wait for future collaborations with him. It was an amazing evening last night, and I really am still processing how awesome and what the high was. An absolute natural high of inspirational, creative, imaginative energy that is looking to be executed and act out in the world. And it was great. It was fantastic. And I want more of that. Dot period. Like, I want more of that. And that's what my dream work is. And I need to make more time for it amidst this event work and paying my bills. And I'm determined. I am determined to clear this hurdle and break through this time. Okay, more to come. Thanks for watching.